Much for joining us today. Sitting in with Dana and myself is also Vanessa Whitaker, and we're really excited that you're wanting to help us out again by becoming a trained spirit official for the New Mexico Activities Association. So before we begin, we all have spirit. Every single one of us loves the sport of cheer and dance, which is why we choose to become spirit officials. The ultimate goal of the Spirit Official is to try to get teams ready for the state competition by participating as a judge in a NMAA sanctioned event. And so thank you again for taking the time. If there's questions, I'm told that you can type them and we'll answer them as we go along. So we're training today to make sure that we train individuals to be qualified fair judges as we enter into competition season. So believe it or not, as a year-round sport, we're just weeks away from our first competition at Cleveland High School. And we want to make sure that any judge who is going to be judging at Cleveland or any other competition is ready to take on the task. This training is not to remove any subjectivity. As we know, cheer and dance is subjective. And so we also want to just make sure that we stay consistent in the way that we do judge. And at the end of this training, spirit officials should have a better understanding of what is expected of them and how to better prepare to judge routines in a competition. So we've asked people in our live training what we think makes a good judge. And typically these are people who have either been cheer dance coaches or have been cheerleaders or dancers themselves. And the one thing that they've told us is what makes a really good judge is somebody who gives feedback that is consistent with the score that they give. We'll talk more about that. And throughout this training, you're going to be seeing that communication and comments are going to be key themes throughout this training. So it's our philosophy that it's the general responsibility of a judge to rank each team with an appropriate score. So these scores are very important not only to the coach, but to individual team members as well, because the goal is to get teams ready for state. And so by doing so, we make sure that we give them scores and comments that they can start to make corrections to their routines to help them better perform at their next competition or ultimately at the state competition. The theme I told you about, communication skills, are the most essential skill that we need to develop. Score sheet comments, scores, and any casual conversations a judge might have with a coach or a team are critical. And so Aztec High School is really good that at the end of every competition, they allow judges to talk to the team and tell coaches why they thought their scores were the way they were, comments that they made. If they need it clarified, they can do that. And so anytime at a competition, if you're asked to provide feedback, if the event organizer is okay, we're okay with that. A lot of times people will send Vanessa or myself emails if they're questioning judging. And so when you write down your comments, it's nice to do it also on a scrap piece of paper, a notepad that you can keep with you, because at any point during the season, Vanessa or I could write you and say, for example, Stephanie Nader, why did you give a 5.5 and why was this comment written this way, where the comment doesn't really tie into the score, and so you can give us a better understanding so we know why you judged the way you did. So there's two types of judges. There's a technical judge and there's multiple performance judges. So the technical judge is responsible for the safety and the rules throughout the competition to ensure that they're following not only the NMAA set rules, but the national sanctioned rules as well. The performance judge, on the other hand, is responsible for evaluating and scoring the team. So I like to say that it's like good cop, bad cop. Bad cop is the tech judge who takes points away just when there's safety concerns. And then we call that good cop the performance judge that racks up the points to ultimately crown a champion.
Question from Renee. I don't usually keep my comments too long after the competition. How long do we need to keep them?
So Renee, on comments, I would probably keep them just about a week or two, because typically it's just within a couple of days that we get concerns on emails regarding either scores or comments written on a score sheet. Good question. So both types of judges, performance and technical, are needed at every NMAA sanctioned competition. And so in order to be a spirit official, you must be licensed by the NMAA. And then the number of judges or judges or panels needed per competition, that's determined by the event host on how big or small their competition will be. So there's some general information that we all need to know. So the requirements to become a Spirit official is, for tech judges, if you want to be a tech, you need to take our Spirit exam. That exam will ask questions in regards to changes in the rule book or any other scenario from a competition, and what the right answer would be based on the NFHS Spirit rules book. You need to have a score of 85% or better, and that exam must be taken and scored no later than November 3rd. You must attend the Spirit Officials training or do the webinar of the Spirit Officials training to ensure that you are licensed. And so we like to say that judges are independent contractors in the sense that you will be paid by the host organization or school. Payment does not come from the NMAA. So with that in mind, when competitions are being hosted, and if you're selected as a judge, it's up to you to work with the event organizer if you'll be granted mileage for this competition, or if they're only doing mileage for the judge who's traveling the furthest to the competition. So let's look at price ranges. It's $84 a day for a tech judge. That's a full day competition, which is more than 5 hours. And competitions which are half day are 4 hours or less, you'll be making $56. And then it's $72 for a performance judge. And actually that should read for a tech judge for half day, and $47 for cheer competition performance judges or dance judges. Mileage is based on what the NMAA has set forth for every single sport. And so once again, the event host can say they're only going to be providing mileage to the judge who travels the furthest. But in some cases, you could definitely say, for example, if Gina Branch is traveling from Santa Fe to Taos, she could pick me up in Espanola and I'd get a $10 as a rider fee. And then if we picked somebody else up along the way, that definitely can happen if the person who's commuting the furthest is in agreement to pick up judges along the way. So what is a good judge? So when we thought about what a good judge is, we definitely knew that a good judge is prepared for a competition, is on time or a little bit early before the competition starts, is knowledgeable about the sport, about the new stuff that's happening in cheer or dance, is fair and consistent, is unbiased and professional at all times, and provides useful feedback, which once again, communication mirrors your scores. When you're done judging each team, you'll be asked to submit your individual score sheet to the tabulator. And so typically event hosts, schools have a student or a parent who volunteers who will get the scores and take them from you and run them to the tabulator. Once those scores leave your hand, they're gone. And so there are some instances where the score sheet does come back only if you've left a score blank, or for example, if it was a range from 1 to 5 and you granted a score of a 7 because you thought it was up to 10, they'll bring it back to you to make sure that you can make the correction. Technical judges should hand their deduction sheets to their tabulator as well as soon as the form is completed. And so one of the tricks and tips that Vanessa and I do as tech judges is we do one of two things. If there is no deductions, but we noticed an athlete do something good, so for example, instead of kicking a palm that's on the way, the athlete picks up the palm and throws it off of the performance floor, we'll write on there and thank the cheerleader for keeping the space clear of any slips, trips, or falls. And then another thing we do is if there was no good catch or there was no deduction, we complete and submit a tech sheet for every school. That way it throws people off. And so it doesn't ever show that we're only giving out deductions, because there's some people in the stands who will just be looking to see if the techs are doing anything like that. So by giving a sheet to every school, we throw them off their game, and then everyone just gets one. Once the scoring sheet has been submitted to the tabulator, you don't see that score sheet like we said again. And so once again, if it's incomplete, you'll be getting it back. What's really hard in the state of New Mexico is Spirit is so small. So it's really hard not to want to talk to other coaches or teams as a judge, but we've made it a practice we smile or nod our head. We don't go out of our way to give big hugs or take selfies before the team goes out on the floor. And so just be mindful that you need to make sure that you separate yourself between yourself as the judge and your professional connection with the coaches or the fans or maybe any of the athletes. Judges, please don't text or answer your phone calls during a competition. It's all about optics, and it gives an illusion that you might be sending scores to a team or to a friend. That's just something that we just ask that you keep your phones down. Judges should leave the facility as soon as final results are announced, unless, as in the example of Aztec, you're asked to stay back and provide feedback. It does one of two things. I think every parent thinks that their kid should be the champion of any type of competition. And so it's hard sometimes when you see how your kids have worked to compete and they're not bringing home a first place. It puts you away from that stressful situation, and you also beat the traffic. So you'll be part of a judging panel if you're a performance judge. The panel is of 3. We will add a 4th when it comes to game day, and we'll talk about that later. And so you'll be seated on the same side as the team facing you. So if these are large competitions, there's typically a panel A and a panel B, which means 3 on each panel. Collectively, your scores will determine who the champion is of each of those competitions. So remember, you'll see some of these teams throughout the year that are the same, but you can't base their previous performance on the performance you're judging that day. So for example, if I saw Espanola Valley High School 2 weeks before and they hit their routine perfect, and then there were bobbles and falls and timing issues the next time, I can't say, well, they were really good last time and base the score off of a routine that I had seen in the past. You're judging the routine that you're currently seeing, and that's exactly what you have to do, is just stay focused on the routine at hand. Judges must realize that your decisions together will be fair and concise. Make sure not to be pressured by any of your peers, any of the judges on your judging panel, to try to change scores or have them try to get you to think who they believe the champion would have been. You're professional, you know the sport enough, you know everything very well, that you just can stick to your score, stick to your comments, because remember, this is subjective. Judges will have up to 5 minutes to record your scores. And so we've noticed that a lot of event competition hosts are giving parents a time schedule. And so being mindful about time, and parents who might have taken off time just to get to see their kids perform, you got to remember that you can't slow down the competition. And so do know if you need a break, that you let the event organizer know. If it's a restroom break, that way he or she can try to get it scheduled in as soon as possible. So one thing that was on that last slide is any score below an 8 or below, if that's a 1 through 10, or a 1 through 5 if it's below a 3, you must really give a good comment, so that way the team and the judge can try to work at fixing any errors they have in the routine to try to get them to score a little higher at their next event. In scoring, write as many brief comments as you can, which will assist the team on their journey to the state competition. And so your main goal here is education. So your experience as a coach or a cheerleader or a dancer comes into mind, and how you think you can really help this team. And don't criticize the routine. You got to remember that there's some schools you're going to see that have as many as 25 members, and then teams with as little as 3 members. So don't criticize the team, just give feedback on what can make them better. Finish your score sheet as rapidly as possible. Once again, don't hold up the competition time, but do complete your job. Judges don't have the authority, and this is a huge one, to disqualify any schools from an NMAA sanctioned event. So tech judges, if you're seeing that there's multiple infractions on any of the rules, or you're a little bit concerned about a routine as a safety standpoint, do not disqualify the school, but better send myself or Vanessa an email. We'll be in contact with the school and with the coach, and we'll make sure to get that fixed for next time. So on score sheets, there's member schools and non-member schools. And so you might see different score sheets based on the event organizer. However, based on past experiences, member schools and non-member schools have been using the NMAA score sheet. Remember, tech judges, member schools, the same as last year, will follow all NFHS, ACA, and NMAA rules. So we are going to share some tricks of the trade with you, things that we've noticed work along the way. It's always nice to bring your own notebook with you in case the event organizer doesn't have one for you. And so if you jot down your comments or keywords, which will help you remember elements of the routine. One thing I like to do is I split my paper into 3. So I'll do pyramids and tosses, so any type of basket that I see or any pyramid. Stunts will be another one, and jumps. So I'll just write keywords on each on what they did. If there was a fall or timing is off, I have short little words that will help me. Time will remind me that it was timing. And so anything that works for you, but splitting up your paper into 3 really helps me. You might want to think about that. Stay away from obvious comments. One thing coaches have told us is, I really don't like when judges say, oh, you missed a stunt on the left. Well, they saw that stunt that fell on the left, but a better comment to give the coach would be something like, timing was off, which led to the stunt on the left not going up, or flyer bent her leg, something that might be able to help the coach fix that. Make suggestions of different things to incorporate into a routine that might assist coaches, but be specific about it. So if you want to see more transitions that would help it be more visually appealing to the audience, you could state something like that. And then another big thing is, don't guess. So if you didn't see a particular skill, and for example, you say nice standing back tucks, and the team didn't have tucks, we lose our credibility. If you don't remember a particular skill, don't even include it or comment on it. Once again, don't let other judges pressure you into changing your scores. You're well aware of the sport, so you know the sport and you're okay with the score that you've put in. Although we do ask that you try to stay in a range, and so that way we it's easier to explain to coaches why they were a few points off versus if we see a huge gap of 7 points away from each judge. And typically we don't run into this problem. Our spirit officials are very good at staying within the same range. Know the sport, and so be committed to understanding the fundamentals and safety rules, and also know the different types of terms out there for both cheer and dance. And if you're not too sure about it, you can ask Vanessa or I to send you a list of terms, or we can send you to a link that can help you out. And so a huge thing is that we're asking is, please don't use social media. So during an event, taking a picture and saying, wow, Las Cruces High School just killed that routine is something we want to avoid. One thing you can use social media in doing is prior to the event, encouraging people to come to the competition, but in no way giving any type of feedback on what you viewed as a judge at the competition. In no way trying to give a rundown of how the competition went. Just stay away from that. This year, there's a Spirit official polo, which must be worn at every NMAA sanctioned event. And then you can send me or Vanessa an email if you haven't gotten one, and we'll send that over to the NMAA to get you the link to order one. So cheerleading is broken up into 2 different categories. One is game day and the other is cheer with music. Event hosts have the option of offering both categories or offering one or the other. Game day has a new element in it, so each team will showcase its best sideline crowd leading material in a game day presentation, and so this includes an announcer-led situation game day element. So we'll look at an example later, but a band dance starts off the game day, followed by that crowd leading section where the announcer will give a cue of the game, and we get to see how the cheer team reacts to that cue, if they know if it's defense or offense. So the whole goal of this is making sure that cheerleaders weren't just showing up to perform in competitions, but to serve as the role as cheering on athletes and cheering on their peers and knowing the sport that they're cheering for. We round off game day with a fight song. And so you'll notice that a lot of schools are using the same fight song music. Don't let that throw you off, because there's smaller schools who don't have a school band and a fight song is provided to them. In no way should you deduct points if you see that fight songs are the same, because this is common with small schools that we're providing one for them. Cheer with music. Music is mandatory. This is the same format we've seen for years, where music is no longer than 1:30, and the rest of the time is devoted to cheers. Score sheets look exactly the same for those of you who helped us last year. And so if you want to take a look at these, you're going to see that we break it up into 2 categories for cheer with music, and that's the music section and then the incorporation of the cheer. Comments, if you don't have enough room to write a comment, you can always use the back of your score sheet or the side margins. Game day is broken up into 2. We talked about there being 4 different judges during game day. 2 will be focused on the crowd leading section of the game day portion, and 2 others will be focused on just fight song and band dance. So a question was asked last time in the game day situation. What you see is that top section on the game day score sheet is proper response to a game day situational cue. If the announcer gives an offense cue and the team cheers a defense cheer, you can go ahead and put a 0 in there because they didn't give the proper response. We are saying that you can give a partial score to teams who play it safe and don't respond to the cue, but do something basic like red, gold, and white, fight team fight, doesn't truly answer the cue, but they did cheer, but it's not the proper response. We're really looking to see if they can do an offense or defense cheer. So I'm going to ask Dana. Dana, can I click on the link and do the game day review?
Yeah.
And will it play? Okay, we're going to check this out, and this is going to be a game day review for all of us.
We can try.
And so this is the first time we're trying this, so bear with us.
Looks like it's doing something.
And so we're going to take a look at what game day looks like now. I'm just not too sure if it's going to have the sound.
It should. But my internet is the slowest internet ever.
So even if we don't get the sound, I'm going to just walk through game day with you. The team sets up in a traditional line setting the way they would on a sideline. They can incorporate their mascot at this time. And so music starts, and it's band music that's playing. What you're looking at here are sharp motions. You're looking for technique and jumps.
Okay. I don't think they're seeing it. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Stand by.
We're going to put you on hold for 1 second.
Because I'm not seeing it, so. Now's the time that you all have a silent meditation.
Leo will sing you a song.
Oh, wait. What's it say? Just saw something. A full share video clip. Miss B, will you look at my screen and see if the video's on?
So
Yes, the
game
video
day
is
started
there.
last year.
Oh, it's there.
The UIL cheerleading thing is there?
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
I could see it there,
Okay.
and then something.
I'm going to hit play now,
just
and we're
people
going to see.
participating in this.
Okay, so we're gonna do this again. And so New Mexico started this game day format last year, and we're seeing that other states are following suit. Wyoming is going to be doing the same game day format as New Mexico this year, and has asked if I could come and check their game day portion to see if it mirrors New Mexico. So we're leading the way in some aspects of cheer. So we start off with, like I said, a traditional sideline formation. Team does a band dance, so there might not be any audio, but I'll keep talking you through it. And you're looking for those sharp motions. You're looking for visual appeal, and so anything that you would typically see when it comes to if you were at a game watching cheerleaders on a sideline. There is no stunting in the portion of the competition, which is the band dance. Asking for a big stop, which would be defense. So didn't give a defense cue, but played it safe. They'll be entering their chair and going into their fight song steps. During fight song, tech judges, it's important to know that they must repeat after 3 8 counts, they must repeat it after any jump, stunt, or tumble. So we notice that our team was setting those elements of stunting, tumbling, or jumping at the end of the fight song, so they don't have to repeat it after the 30. Right here, you start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so then we notice that the team didn't repeat. This team wouldn't have been following the rules of the band fight song. Which means there would be a 5-point deduction based on NMAA guidelines, since it's an NMAA rule. And we notice that even URL has the same rules. So if you have any questions when it comes to the fight song and band dance, you can let Vanessa or helping you better understand what dance is the same format that we've used for the past several years when it comes to dance competitions. So a palm routine can still be one of the routine that everybody must do, which is at Thursday. And so the only main element of this is palms must be used at least 80% of the routine. For those of you who haven't judged with us in a while, or who may have cheered back in the 90s, early 2000s,
Holding it in.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay. It doesn't matter what about.
So what's going to happen is, if you have any questions, what about now? Can you hear me now?
Yep, there. Yes, better. Okay.
Very good. So if you have any questions when it comes to those 3 8 counts on a routine, when it comes to the fight song, you can write myself or Vanessa. We can show you more examples of teams that do it correctly and other teams that do it incorrectly. So it's up to the tech judge to deduct 5 points because it's an NMAA sanctioned event rule that we repeat our 8 counts after any stunt, jump, or tumbling. but after the third count, it repeats. And so for those of you who didn't judge with us last year or the last few years that were cheerleaders or coaches in the 90s or early 2000s, there used to be a rule in pom that you had to do pom tosses and a number of kicks. That doesn't hold true anymore. When it comes to dance, the only requirement we have is poms must be used at least 80% of the routine. There's no props. We just don't have enough time to have people set up props and tear them down. Remember that the important characteristics of a pom routine are nice and tight motions, synchronization, and visual effects, pom placement, and dance technique. And so military, we still do have several schools who focus on the military aspect in competitions. And so just remember, it's the same thing of being aware that synchronization, choreography, technique, and execution are the major areas of this. Be on the lookout for level changes, kicks, visual effects, and then the overall routines, technique. We're seeing a large amount of schools compete in both the jazz and hip hop categories. Jazz, remember, once again, is the emphasis on synchronization, choreography, technique, and execution, group work, visual effect. And so we do hear from coaches a lot of the times that say that their school did a lot better this competition season in regards to technique versus seasons in the past. What we remind those coaches is that we don't judge based on the way the team has progressed throughout the years, but just on the way they're performing their routine at the time that they're being judged. So hip hop is becoming big, looking for that street style movements with emphasis on execution. And so Dana's doing her hip hop moves in here, and I give her a 10 out of 10. And so the body isolation's in control. And so the big thing with hip hop is ensuring that it's really hard to make it all be in sync, but looking at those motions and seeing if they can get it in sync. Dance score sheet stayed the same as last year. And so we had dance coaches help us a couple of years ago along with varsity to come up with a dance score sheet. And so this one's been working very well for us. So we're keeping the score sheet. And so if you have any questions on score sheets, you can send those to us. And if you can't think of any now, during the competition, if you're seeing any areas that could be improved on the score sheet or what you're running into, you can always email myself and or Vanessa, and we'll help you out. We touched on the technical score sheet. What you're going to see a little bit different this year is you're definitely going to see member middle schools and non-member middle schools / junior highs. If they're a member middle school or junior high team, you're going to see a score sheet that's going to be tailored just for middle school, since their rules mainly come out of ACA. And so the score sheets are different. There is the link on the NMAA site to the ACA rules and the NMAA rules for middle school. And so in high school, we just follow all of our state rules and then ensure that we're following the NFHS rules. You must pass that exam again with an 85% or better, and then you'll have your rule book. And so tech judges like Vanessa and Rosa and others who have been with us for quite a few years now have come up with a cheat sheet, which is a quick reference to the NFHS book. And so we'd be more than happy to share that cheat sheet with you. Once you've passed your tech exam, we'll make sure we can send that to you so you can reference it during any competition. So middle schools are a little unique in the fact that you can take on as many members as you want. So there's a large number of non-member schools that are not part of the NMAA, and then there's another part of schools who are member schools. And so they will perform together at sanctioned events. Middle school cheer and dance score sheets are the same as high school sheets. However, remember we just went over that the tech sheet is different. And so middle school cheer teams will only be judged on Cheer with Music this year. So a decision was made that we won't incorporate game day at the middle school level yet, just because high schools are still trying to grasp the concept. And so it's still pretty young in us introducing game day at the high school level, so we're not going to introduce it as of yet to middle schools. So middle school rules can be found on our NMAA webpage, and they are different from the high school cheer rules, and so you can see those. And so one that's different is any type of inversion we keep at a prep level. We don't take it up to an extended level. Always use the middle school or junior high school tech sheets if you're judging, technical judging for a middle school or junior high. Non-member school, junior high schools, and elementary or solos won't be judged this year with member schools. If an event host decides to host non-member schools at an event or to host elementaries or solos, our NMAA judges aren't being asked to judge those. However, you can, if you agree with the event host, to do one of two things. You can volunteer your time if they ask that, or for example, the Spirit of Hope, Sandy, is offering more money to judges, a larger sum than what's expected by the NMAA, so she can pay her judges to judge not only the NMAA sanctioned portion of the event, but any schools which are non-members, elementary, or solos. So the event host will let you know if he or she will be paying you more to judge those, or in other cases, they might just find their own judges for that. So each organizers have been notified to have all their member schools go first, so that way you're not waiting around at the competition in case you're not that same panel to judge non-member schools. So remember, if you're asked to judge a non-member school, we called you an independent contractor. It's up to you to determine the payment, if there will be payment, or if you want to volunteer your time. And the amount is agreed upon between you and the event organizer before the competition begins. So it would be very unfair to the event organizer if you choose not to do it and leave after the sanctioned event and leave he or she without a judge. Make sure that you iron out all those details before the competition. Member schools are required to follow all ACA and NMAA rules, and all rules are found on the website. If the rules are not followed, please contact. So myself is Vanessa, or me, Leo, or Sally. So Vanessa's taking the lead with middle schools. She's been working with the do's and don'ts with coaches and explaining the rules at a middle school level. And so she's been key at keeping middle schools informed. Middle school, junior high schools don't have a number restriction on the number of participants. And so we chose this just because at this level, there's so many kids who are trying to figure out what their sport is or what they're really good at. So this helps for kids to do one of two things: see if the sport is for them, or two, if it's really for them, get them prepared to move into the high school level. Always remember and remind those around you, even as judges, that we compete with class, which means that we don't get emotional or upset when maybe a team that we had been on before or helped coach before doesn't win. You're a professional as a judge, and so you're not to show any type of favoritism for any type of team. If you get any type of NMAA question, don't feel the pressure that you have to answer that because you might not know the answer. The best thing to do is to direct the individual asking the question to either myself or Vanessa. And so you can give them our email address, or you yourself can send us an email or text, and we'll do our best to try to get an answer to them as soon as possible. Since competitions are on weekends, we typically have our phones with us, and you can send us a text, and we're pretty good at responding immediately. So how do we even select our Spirit officials to judge an event? So what I do is I send out a call out to Spirit officials 3 to 4 weeks prior to the event. And so the subject will read the name of the event. So let's take Gallup High School, for example. I would write Turquoise Cup Challenge in the subject, and then in parentheses write dance competition. In the body of the email, I'll give you the logistics. So the date of the competition, typically if I have it, the time of the competition, if it's going to, and where the location is going to be, if it's going to be at a high school, at the event high school, or in some cases it might be hosted at a convention center.
There's a question, sorry, but can you explain what a member school and a non-member school is?
Sure. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Vanessa on member and non-member schools. That's a good question.
Hi, this is Vanessa. So our member schools are, the way we determine is totally different than the member schools are determined for any other sport at the NMAA. If you are a non-member school, that would mean that you are not, you may practice at the particular school, but you are not being supervised by a athletic director, principal, or vice principal. And so that is how we determine the middle schools. So in order for you to know if it is a member school or non-member school, you will need to contact myself, Leo, or Sally to know if it's a member school. We were going to have a list of member schools available to you for the junior high, middle school level. We are still in the process of working on that, so we do not have that. We do have a partial list, but the event organizer should know before the event starts whether it's a member or non-member school, and they should have them divided in those particular categories. Once Leo determines the judges, then they can ask them what is a member school and non-member schools, or once you get there, you will be able to know whether it's a member school or non-member school. But if you have any questions about member schools, like Leo said, to make sure you contact myself or Leo, and then we will let you know anything in regards to member schools. The member school situation, as far as cheer and dance is concerned, please make sure that in a cheer competition, it is cheer with music only, no exceptions. If you get to a competition and someone is doing game day, you are not going to be judging the game day. You can let them know that. You can just tell them that we don't judge game day, because middle schools are only to do middle schools are only eligible to do cheer with music. If they start out doing a game day, you will not be judging it. Now, if they do it in a non-member, that's up to the school, and that's up to them to have a score sheet and tell you what the rules are.
Very good. Thanks, Vanessa. Once that email goes out, then you can determine if that competition works on your calendar. And so if it works on your calendar, you can send me a response replying to the email saying that you can judge. You'll then let me know if you can judge cheer, dance, or both, or if you want to serve as the technical judge. Don't send a response if you can't work the event. By not responding, I'll assume that you're not working. It just becomes way too much email when judges start writing back and saying like why they can't work the event, that they can't work the event. It's just best to get emails from those who can definitely sign up and work the competition. So judges are selected by myself based on anything that the event host information gives me. So for example, the host might say, I'm looking for judges who are within 30 miles of the competition because we can't pay mileage. So I'll look based on your address, your home location to see if you fit that criteria. Or sometimes cheer officials will say, I need judges who are able to judge both cheer and dance only. And so that's how I make my determination on who will be on the judging panel. I also, if I just see repeat judges who are in the same location all the time, I like to switch it up to make sure that teams are getting more responses from not just the same judge throughout the year, but different judges who can view their routine. So I'll send you an email if you're selected as part of a judging panel at least a week before the competition. So what you must do when you receive an email that you're part of the judging panel is you'll be given the event host's email address. It's up to you to email that event host to confirm that you'll be judging and to send your telephone number, preferably a cell phone number, to the event host. And so this is big because there were 2 years back-to-back that Santa Fe High tried to host a cheer and dance event, and it snowed so much the night before their event that because of hazardous road conditions, they had to cancel their competitions. And so it made it easier to have judges' cell phone numbers to send a text, because Albuquerque got a dusting of snow, whereas in Santa Fe they had so much snow. So the judges from Albuquerque would have tried to make it, and there would have been no cancellation the way we typically see on school cancellation or delays on the news, because it was on a weekend. So if you're not selected to judge, I'll also send you an email, and the email will just thank you. But do keep in mind that there might be times, so those who aren't selected, that I'll put on a waiting list. So if there's an emergency that somebody couldn't judge the event who was selected for the competition, I'll then write you back and ask if you're still available and can fill in as a replacement judge. So we're just amazed that we're just less than a month away from our very first competition. And so Cleveland High School is going to be hosting the Cleveland Challenge on November 10th. I've already sent the call out for that competition. And so you can take a look at the others that are coming up. These competitions are also listed on the NMAA website. And so this could give you a better understanding several months ahead of time on competitions that you might be able to help us with, that you can block it on your calendar. And when the event email goes out, where I do my call out for judges, you'll then be able to send me an email and say if you can judge the event. And so I just want to re-emphasize that sending an email to me, let me know if you can judge cheer, dance, or both, or if you want to be the technical judge. And then also, again, don't reply to the email and tell me if you can't judge. Only reply to the email if you can work the event. So in December, we have a couple of competitions that are on the same day. Typically what happens is I look for people in the area, so people in northern New Mexico for Gallup, and then people in the Clovis eastern area to make sure they can cover those events. But that doesn't mean that we can't take anyone from Albuquerque or other areas if the event hosts are willing to either pay mileage, or if they can't pay mileage, if the Spirit official will just do the driving on their own and volunteer their time driving to get to the event. January, we have a few competitions. And so February is our big month because that's leading up a month prior to state. And so we'll see a lot of competitions on similar dates. This is when I'll really, really need help, especially in the tech area. So if you can start looking at these February dates and write on your calendar if you think you can help me out, because this is where it's going to get a little bit rough. We're seeing 2 competitions on February 2nd, 2 on the 9th, 2 on the 16th, and 2 on the 23rd. And so March, we have a couple that are also back-to-back. St. Pius's competition is typically very, very large and requires 2 judging panels. So if you look at March 2nd, that would be 3 judging panels that I would need. Halftime Hoorah is another big one. If you're available to take time off of work for a couple of days and you can help out Vanessa with this competition, you can email Alyssa, who will be taking names for Vanessa. Vanessa does the selection of judges for this competition. And then the very last competition leading up to state will be the Santa Fe Dance Festival. And so not as many competitions as we've had in the past, but we still have some quality competitions, and I really, really look forward to working with every single one of you. And thank you again. So on behalf of myself, Dana, Vanessa, and the entire NMAA staff, we're excited that you're going to be part of the Spirit Officials family, and we're excited that you'll be giving back to student athletes and to coaches who are going to be depending on your knowledge and expertise to help them throughout the year. Thank you.
If anybody has any questions at this time, feel free to go ahead and type those in the chat box, and Leo and Vanessa will stand by for a couple of minutes and answer any questions that you may have. So feel free to type them in. If you have no questions, if you're ready to roll with the Spirit season, you can go ahead and log out. I do have all of your names from the little participant list, so you'll all get credit for this, and I'll stop hounding you to take a clinic. Olivia, is this the complete schedule for the year?
As of now, yes, but there could be add-ons.
As of now, yes, but there could be add-ons. And now I'm going to hand the microphone over because Renee's talking about rules. Can you give any guidance on the new rules changes? because I can't.
So I'm going to hand this one over to Vanessa. So for those of you who are new, Vanessa leads New Mexico as our lead tech judge, and she's the liaison between the writers of the rule book and the NMAA when it comes to any type of middle school and high school rules. So I'm going to hand over this to Vanessa.
Go back to the February calendar.
Renee, the thing is that that's why it's so important for tech judges, and I would suggest that all judges take the rules test that's available because it is an open book test. The main one that probably comes is the one for dance. Those of you who've been to state competition have noticed that Hope and St. Mike's do a head spin that they used to do. That is now illegal to do that. Any type of head movement that you are doing, your hands have to be placed on the ground. So that would mean that if you're doing a head spring, you're doing a hand spring, well, it'd be a head spring, but you would have your hands on the ground. So that is one of the bigger rules. Anything as far as any jewelry or anything like that hasn't changed. The rules are very simple that are changed for cheer. There's not many rules changed for cheer. The main thing that you do have to remember for tech judges especially, as Leo stated, you have to use the ACCA sheet. So the ACCA sheet is online. I would suggest that all tech judges take that with them because when you are quoting a rule violation, it needs to be quoted from ACCA, not from NFHS. And so the middle school rules are there. We have made it very, very clear to middle/junior high on any of those rules, the NMA rules. There are rules for tosses. You have to make sure that you totally understand what a toss is, and that is a violation. I have had several calls in regards to tosses, and it has to be explained to the middle school, and I think most of them all know now what is the violation in regards to tosses as far as middle school, junior highs are concerned. We have a very large number of middle school, junior high teams this year that will be competing, whether it's in non-member or member schools. There's a lot of cheer teams that are out there now, so you will see a lot of them at competition. But the rules for NFHS for high school have not changed. I think there's a couple of changes. They're not real big, but the biggest one would be the dance one as far as dance is concerned. And there is a picture of it in the rule book so you can understand the dance rule. Any other questions?
There's more questions.
No.
Very good. So if there's no more questions, that ends this training. If by any chance later on during the competition season or later on during the day you think of any type of question you might have, feel free to email myself or Vanessa, and we'll send you an email.
Remember that
And
elementary
so-
schools do not fall under.
And she's going to be, and Vanessa wanted to remind you that elementary schools don't fall into any type of,
Member school or anything.
Member
They're not
school.
ours. We have nothing to do with elementary. Nothing.
okay. So elementaries don't tie into the NMAA, so those would for sure just be non-member schools. Once again, thank you and have a great evening.
You all rock. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
It must be Stephanie.
Carla.
Carla. Stephanie or Carla.
I unplugged this, they can't hear
Perfect.
anymore.
And then I'll switch places with you because I've got to.
Stop recording.
Yes.